All right, guys, welcome in to another Top 10 2023 draft scenario where I do a full Top 10 super in-depth mock draft with several trades because we assume there's going to be at least one, probably multiple trades within the top 10 with the quarterbacks that are available. Now, the first thing I want to say with CJ Stroud, everyone's wondering why hasn't he declared what's going on. I really don't know what's going on. I did read something where apparently Justin Fields, when he was declaring, he waited till the last day to declare. So I would certainly imagine CJ Stroud would declare for the draft. You know, the only way he would stay would be like a Hail Mary NIL package offer from Ohio State where they would have to put together like, I don't know, a $7 or $8 million NIL package. I don't think they can do it. So CJ Stroud proved a ton against Georgia. You know, maybe if he plays terrible in that game, doesn't show any mobility, gets knocked behind, you know, both Bryce Young and Will Levis, maybe even behind Anthony Richardson, then maybe. But I think CJ Stroud is leaving. So, guys, this scenario is the Vegas Raiders possibly falling in love with a quarterback, whether it's Bryce Young, Will Levis, or CJ Stroud, and trading from 7 to 1. That's the scenario we're going to do. We're going to keep Houston at 3. We might decide to keep Arizona or we're going to keep Houston at 2. We might decide to keep Arizona at 3 because maybe they really like Will Anderson. And to be honest, I think Will Anderson is so can't miss that it would be very hard for me to trade down if I was Arizona, especially if the top 2 picks are both quarterbacks. But if you are Chicago and you're sticking with Justin Fields, which the expectation, the rumors are they're all in on Justin Fields, they want to help him, they need to get more assets. They're going to trade down to number 7. So Vegas is available right here. The trade from 1 to 7 for Vegas, you would have to throw in your 2024 first rounder. You would probably have to, from 7 to 1, you'd have to throw in 38. And then, 7 to 1 it's a steep climb. Maybe even your second rounder next year and another second rounder. It would be something like that, I would say. So it's 7, 38, first and second. Well, maybe that's too much. I think I would not do that. The second rounder there. That would probably be my trade to move from 7 to 1. Again, it's a lot. I'm trying to value it based on history. But we understand that picks get more valuable, and if you are Chicago, it has to be worthwhile. So, the other thing with Vegas that you have to wonder, with their current roster, to me, a move like this just really doesn't make sense unless you're going with Bryce Young or Stroud, because I think Will Levis needs time to develop, and this is a roster that seems ready, very veteran. They want to win right now. They've got Adams, who's not getting any younger, the superstar receiver. They've got Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller. Josh Jacobs probably leaving, but who knows? So let's go ahead and do this. Let's get them the number 1 overall pick. And Chicago gets an extra first rounder. They get an extra second rounder. They get the second rounder back that they lost for trading for Chase Claypool. They still get the number 7 overall pick. They can probably draft Peter Saransky to really help out the offensive line there, which is probably what they should do. And I would have the Raiders in this scenario picking either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Because CJ Stroud hasn't declared yet, I'm just going to give them Bryce Young there. And then you have Houston. I just think personally, it's all personal preference. This is all speculation. We really don't know what they think, but I generally get the vibe. As long as CJ Stroud declares, the general consensus, it's Bryce Young and it's CJ Stroud. And then Will Levis is someone I really want to talk about because there's a lot of misconceptions about him. But I'm going to say CJ Stroud goes number 2. So it's Young, it's Stroud. And now you have the Arizona Cardinals, and we are just going to give the Cardinals Will Anderson. So you look at that Cardinals team maybe trying to get Sean Payton. We'll see what they do at the head coach position. They've got Kyler Murray. We don't know when he's going to be back next year. He might miss the first month, I'm sure. He'll miss all of preseason and stuff. So that's just not a good situation for Arizona. But they can really get a superstar edge rusher, and we will give them Will Anderson. And then I think this is a match that would realistically happen, where Will Levis would almost fall into Indianapolis's lap. And there's a lot of misconceptions with Will Levis. Guys, Will Levis is nothing like Zach Wilson. And that's coming from me. And listen, I said that Zach Wilson was a total fraud before his draft, when everyone had him as the consensus number 2 overall pick. I said, listen, I don't understand it. Justin Fields is way better. But guys, you have to... If you tell me that Will Levis is another Zach Wilson, you're a casual. It's just not. They're not even close to the same build. Will Levis faced much harder competition. He's much bigger. He's got, I guess they both have good arms. Really, arm strength, as long as you have a certain amount of arm strength, it doesn't really matter. But Will Levis had an amazing year last year. This year, he lost a lot of offensive coaches, so it's a little bit worse. But guys, the idea that Will Levis and Zach Wilson are the same, it's just a casual misconception, and I am not going to totally evaluate Will Levis right now, but that's just my opinion. When it comes to Seattle, it seems like Jalen Carter is probably the play here. They already drafted Charles Cross. I don't know what Seattle's going to do at the quarterback position. I mean, Geno Smith legitimately was a top 10 quarterback this year. I think some of that it has to do with the fact that scoring in the NFL was down. The quarterbacks weren't great. I mean, there were really only 5 really elite quarterbacks this year, but they're probably just going to stick with Geno Smith. And I can't say I agree with that, because Geno Smith has just not had a career to where I would really trust him to be a top 10 quarterback again. But speculation says they stick with them. We're going to give them Jalen Carter. And then you do have Detroit sitting with the number 6 overall pick. And when it comes to Detroit, they could go a number of ways. They might actually go with a quarterback here, Anthony Richardson. I don't know what's going to happen with Anthony Richardson. Maybe Carolina, maybe he falls. With Anthony Richardson, it's all going to depend on the combine. If teams fall in love with him, he could go anywhere, at the number 6 overall pick. We're going to give him to Detroit, because Detroit is another team where it's like, guys, Jared Goff cannot be your future. I'm sorry. I know Jared Goff had a good year, but if you actually look at those games, a lot of it is garbage time. A lot of it is playing from behind. It reminds me of Blake Bortles back when he had Allen Robinson, and he had really good stats. He was like the 7th best quarterback that year, but it was all because they were playing behind. This is nothing against Jared Goff. I just think he's in a good situation where Detroit's had a young defense that gives up a lot of points, and if you're in situations where you're down and you're in a dome, you're going to get a lot of passing yards. I just don't think Jared Goff is the future. Anthony Richardson, I am not sold on at all. He just seems like the prototypical bust. Massive accuracy issues, but Josh Allen also had huge accuracy problems. That's fair. So it's just a roll of the dice with these guys. So we will give Detroit Anthony Richardson, and then we will give Chicago, who trades down, Saransky, the best offensive tackle. They could also take Paris Johnson Jr. I could see Paris Johnson Jr. developing into the number 1 overall offensive tackle in the class, depending. You've got Atlanta at number 8. They've got major problems with their quarterback situation. They completely messed that up. I'm going to give them Wilson, the defensive hybrid pass rusher. Carolina picking at number 9. Carolina, another team. What do? I mean, they finished the year with Sam Darnold. You look at the current quarterbacks, they're definitely a team that can trade up. They really got to update this thing. I mean, Bo Nix got like a $5 million NIL offer. He's going back to Oregon. But at number 9, we will give them, maybe Quentin Johnson. But guys, when it comes to the receivers, I really like JSN. And it is a dart throw. He's got injury concerns, but it's not like it's an ACL tear. It's a hamstring problem that he's really rested, so you'd think he'd be okay. I will go ahead and give Carolina the TCU receiver. And then and that would be actually, you know what? I don't know about that with DJ Moore already signed to an extension. Yeah, that might have not been a good idea. And then at number 10, we will give Philadelphia maybe Cam Smith. I like Cam Smith, the cornerback. Ringo, the other. I love Brian Branch. We're going to give them Brian Branch. I love Brian Branch. Brian Branch is going to be a beast. But so when it comes to the top 10, you just look at where the quarterbacks go. This is the Raiders making a move, trading up to number 1. I still love the Aaron Rodgers to the Raiders idea. I mean, if you're Aaron Rodgers, like, brother, there has to be 2 options. Retire or say, listen, you can trade me. Why do you keep letting the Green Bay Packers front office get away with this? They're horrible at their jobs. I said it last year. Everyone downvoted it. I don't know why. I got so many dislikes. They are terrible, and they draft 2 Georgia defensive players, both busts, after trading Devontae Adams. If you're Aaron Rodgers, either retire or say, just trade me and go with Jordan Love. And then if you're the Packers, you could probably trade Aaron Rodgers for the number 7 overall pick and then use your own 15th overall pick along with the number 7 overall pick to move to number 1 and draft your future quarterback and have him compete with Jordan Love in the preseason. That's what I would do. But this is just the updated. I am starting to think that the Cardinals will just stay at 3 and probably draft Will Anderson because he's so generational. And, I mean, you have 17 sacks as a sophomore. That's ridiculous. But, you know, Will Levis at number 4 kind of falling to him. Indianapolis is a team I can see moving up to number 1. Maybe the Raiders, maybe a team like Carolina, but that's a massive jump. You're going to have to give up a ton of assets to move from 9 to 1, like multiple first-round picks, multiple second-round picks, and the whole Queen's Gambit. So that is the overall top 10 right there. Just a fun little thing I do. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.